Welcome to Kingdom of Kodiak. I'm Kodiak. This is episode 25, and with me today is 6 Promethea of the Iron Mountain. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I've been better. Just trying to get this show off the ground today. I've been better. Let's not hesitate to get you into the bare necessities. Sorry, Sin. Where does Promethea come from?
The name Promethea?
Yes.
I stole it from an Alan Moore comic book. There is a lovely 6-issue series called Promethea, and the premise is Promethea is a god character who only comes to artists when they are expressing their medium. And I really liked the idea that she was different for everyone. And it wasn't my original Amtgard name. I'm one of the only people I know who has successfully rebranded themselves partway through doing Amtgard. So yeah, I just saw it, and one day it just kind of clicked. A number of people, when I was thinking of another name, wanted me to be Brienne, but this is because I am almost 6 feet tall. So I get the connection, but I decided to steal from a different franchise instead.
And what about the persona itself, as you play it?
The persona has kind of evolved over time. I feel like after a certain point, it becomes very easy to play one certain, and it happens with like tabletop games too. You play a character in the same way, even though they're a different character, because it's just how you feel comfortable acting. But the character, as I have played it, is someone of an indeterminate age who is deeply magical and is not very good at understanding why humans do the things they do, and has them explained, and just sort of sits there and goes, I don't get it, but you seem convinced, and so that's good enough for me. And it's been easy to play as kind of like a foil for other people, because she plays kind of deadpan. It's easy for people to, like, when role playing, it's easy for people to bounce stuff off of me because I'm just like, and then. So a lot less energetic and political, I think, than some of my characters when I was younger, but also really fun to play, if only to be able to keep like a completely straight face while I'm doing it.
That's awesome. So how long have you been playing Amtgard?
I have been playing Amtgard since April of 2004. I started playing when I was in high school, so I was 16, and I played all the way through to now with I think like one break when I was out of college and just doing like part-time jobs. There was just a time where things that weren't my physically strenuous job weren't really a thing I could do. Right. So yeah, that whole time. So 16 years.
Wow. Whew. How long have you been aware of Amtgard?
I learned about it probably about, I'd say like 6 months before I started playing. There was a club at my high school. I was in bands and choirs, and all of my friends from those areas, like the people that I chose to spend time with outside of like the music room, were all in Amtgard. And so one day my best friend was like, I've brought you this Elizabethan costume, and now we will go to the park. And I was like, yeah, dress up at a park by my house. Seems great. And I was very overdressed for that park at the time. I wasn't fully convinced by it the first time. And I grew up, like I mentioned, I grew up at a high school park, so it was all people my own age. I wasn't convinced the first time because everybody was, like enjoying a nice spring day outside. And then the next time I went and I just watched and I saw battle games, and I thought, like, yes, this is something that I would like to spend time doing now that it's a little bit more involved.
Right. That's awesome. So a whole high school park, that's got to be different versus what we've seen the game become over time.
Yeah. So the founder of the park in my hometown moved away for college. She found a slightly older park, and then she moved back, and her brother started the park that I played in. So it is definitely a different vibe than playing in a park that is like adults or mixed adults and youth players. The bonus is that you're all kind of ridiculous, and so you're willing to try and do lots of good, ridiculous things. And the downside is you're 16 and you all just want to date each other, and then it always goes badly, and then people leave because they're like, well, I'm not speaking to so-and-so anymore, and they just never come back. So it's simpler, but just as energetic and dramatic as adult interactions can be, I think.
Fantastic. So, over your 16 years, what would you say is the award that you're the most proud of?
Oh my. There are a few things that like stand out. I got my 10th dragon when I think it was like 2013, 2014. It might have been, no, I think I got knighted in. It's a hard life for me to remember some of these things some of the time. And this one in particular, I got my 10th dragon, and about a year later, I decided to hand it back. The wording on my dragon specifically called out the variety of art that I did. And at the time, I was in GV, and we came from a culture of, well, dragons have to have their masterhood, and like you need your masterhood project. And I didn't really have a masterhood project. I thought it's weird that they gave me this and they want me to be a master dragon. That seems bad. So I handed it back, and thus began the multi-year saga of me moving credits, moving kingdoms, moving into a new country, and not having that award, being like, dang, I kind of wish I hadn't turned that down now. I did a lot of work in that time, and yeah, it'd be real cool to be a serpent knight, a thing that is normally what people ask me if I am first, and I'm always like, no, not actually. But that award was still very important to me as much as I handed it back, and it got to be important to me twice. Once because my friends had gone the extra effort to get that award from Kingdom for me, and that they were recognizing me, and we didn't have a lot of 10th or masters in Ontario at that time. And two, because then I got it a second time, and that time I was really able mentally to accept it. And so it was a different feeling the second time, but very much still an important thing to my mental state, if nothing else.
Well, that's cool. I mean, a different way to get to it, but getting it twice, yeah. That's super cool. What would you say is your favorite battle game?
I think in my life, as I don't battle game as nearly as much anymore, if at all, like I used to when I was younger, I would say that I've always had a soft spot for Ring the Bell. I don't know why, and even though it's a ditch game, I don't know why, I've just always really enjoyed that. But I also enjoy like caravan battles and anything that requires your team to physically move an object from one side to the other. It adds one element that adds a lot of complexity to how the game is played, and so I've always really liked that.
Okay. And when you're playing some of these games, what would you say is your favorite class?
It has been and will always be healer. I enjoy healer so much, and even when I think about, like now as a person who doesn't play as much, I'm like, well, I'll go back and play monk because in V8 it's easy. Like it's easy to remember what you have and don't have. But I'm always looking sort of sidelong at healer, being like, most of it hasn't changed that much. And then I just, panic a little bit. I'm like, no, I'll just play the easy thing instead.
Pardon me. And what would you say is the weapon set that you're carrying when you're playing a healer?
For the longest time, I was using sword and board. And then as in V7, as I got more into it, I just started using a single dagger. Now I don't know what I would do, but I'm a little bit arthritic, so probably a single dagger just for ease of keeping my body alive.
Right. Okay. All right. So those are the bare necessities. Again, sorry, Sin, but I'm still going to ask them. Now we have the 3 general questions we've asked every week. I thought the first question was going to change after talking to Sir Glennoth last week. It has not.
All right.
When is Sir Glennoth actually going to receive his toaster?
I think realistically, we have to get to a point where Glennoth has taken enough pictures with old Windows desktops where you see the flying toaster. And once he's gotten a sufficient amount of those, we can consider him laddered and thereby ready to get his toaster.
Oh, this is a lateral work then.
Yeah, he can have, I think it's good to get him all the accoutrement that he needs for a toaster. There aren't that many, and now that I'm pressed to think about 10 of them, I'm like, oh, I can't think of 10. Plate, knife, butter, not great. But once he's sufficiently completed the entry into this man really loves toasters club, I think we should just all bombard his house with toasters. So I'm going to need Glenel's mailing address. I'm going to need his color preferences, and I will need at least one picture in front of a classic flying toaster background.
It seems like the standards are set, Sir Glenel. You're back on the clock.
Yeah.
So last time we learned a little bit about Sir Glenelth. We realized that he also would like a soda maker.
He can have mine.
Oh,
Go
oh.
in my kitchen. We could just mail it to him. Hey, bud, you're going to get a lot of large Amazon boxes, and I want you to not think too hard about them, and it's only cool stuff inside.
Fantastic. Stillhat would like to know, what are your thoughts on bears?
Bears are less cool than lions, but cooler than wolves.
It seems like you've thought about that for a while.
I saw a lot of bear-related questions, and so I've had some thoughts about bears over the last couple of days.
Yeah. Kingdom of Kodiak.
Yeah.
So, who or what is your favorite bear?
I thought about that. That was one of the questions when I told you that I skimmed some of them. I did look because I was hoping for not having to do research on the fly to answer some of these questions.
Right.
I really like spirit bears. They're just fancy black bear cousins, and they are like paler brown, little brown snoots. They're just fancy black bears, but they look so cool.
Awesome. Okay. What are your thoughts on Dragonspine getting its own pool and or jacuzzi?
Yes. I'm biased. I live in Colorado now, and thereby it would be easy for me to visit a pool and or jacuzzi. So yeah, you should do that. I don't know what kind of weird tax write-off situation you're going to have to do in order to get that money, and I don't know where you're going to put it, perhaps on Randall's front lawn. But yeah, I'm 100% in favor.
I believe the story going right now is that we're going to try to make it a mobile pool.
Oh, yeah, that seems great. If you buy those fancy shipping container pools that I see on all the fancy home and garden television shows, you certainly could do that by just literally putting it on the back of the truck.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, good.
So in the world where we have a pool or jacuzzis, are bears allowed?
I feel like if dogs are allowed, then bears have to be allowed. And it's mostly like, how much fur do you want to get out of your pool? Because I feel like that's a risk with any animal you put in a pool that has fur. So yeah, if you're going to allow dogs, you can't not allow bears.
So now the question, I believe the question is now evolved to, are dogs allowed in the pool?
I hope so. I love dogs, so I hope so.
All right, well, you heard it first. By association, she loves bears, and therefore bears are allowed in the pool.
That's a fact. I said it on the internet. I can't take that back.
You can't take it back. It's in video form as well. So.
That's right.
All right. So your first category that we brought you in for was I titled art.
Great.
A lot of questions about your artwork. Saranda would like to know if you could please tell us about your scroll project.
My scroll project.
Yeah.
This could be anything. Ben, please be more specific. I've done, the only thing I can think of in terms of a project is periodically, so in Amtgard it sometimes happens that somebody will say, I got this award in a format that was not very good. Napkin awards is like the common thing. And I have in the past gone back and redone awards for people and been like, here is a not napkin. And this isn't my original idea. And I know there's like a no scroll left behind project. It's basically the same premise. But every so often someone will go, man, I wish that my award didn't have the name of somebody I didn't like on it. And I'm like, what if we made you a new award and we just left that name off and then we just didn't think about it anymore? So hopefully that's what he's referring to. And if he's not, I'm happy to answer this after the fact because that could be literally anything.
I did misspeak. There is an S at the end of it.
Scroll projects. Very different. I can talk about my process a little bit, I guess. Like that might work. That works for you.
I'm sure that's what Saranda was shooting for.
Goodness, I hope so. So yeah, I'm a multimedia artist. So I do my designs primarily in Illustrator, and then I have done watercolor paintings, acrylic paintings, shadow boxes, mixed media pieces where like some elements are 3D and some are not. And the thing I'm probably most known for is digital scrolls, which I get into partially out of like, I love doing digital artwork and it's very enjoyable for me. But there's also a huge benefit to somebody saying, I need an award in 2 weeks. And living in Ontario for most of my life, I couldn't guarantee a shipping. It's like, oh, thank God, now I have 3 days to do this award before it has to be mailed to the US. But with digital awards, I'm able to just send a blurb in an email with the file and go, hey, this is how you go to Staples. This is what you're going to ask for. You can get these frames at these places. You can go in your own time. You can get it printed on nicer paper. You can do whatever you want. But if go to Staples, ask for this, get a frame, and you're done. And you can sign it when you get it. And that was like the bread and butter of the things I was asked to do for a long time, because it was easy and people could have nice stuff, and the printing quality that they got would usually be the same printing quality that I could bring if I showed up to the event. But yeah, a lot of it's just making an illustration and then deciding later, like, would this be better served in some other medium? Do I have the things to make it? And can I stop myself from buying too much stuff to try a new medium? Because I have gotten myself in a lot of trouble in my life by being like, and now it is time to learn resin, and it never goes the way I know we want to learn it the day before. We can't learn it the day before.
So it might tie into Kron's question here, but what do you consider to be your best A&S project so far?
The one I got asked this recently too by someone else, and I think it is still, I made a 40K themed shadow box warlord for my friend Tyrael, and it was so big shadow box frame from IKEA, watercolor paper. I don't have great handwriting, and so digital scrolls are great because I can use fonts. So I very lightly laser scored lettering that I then inked. I laser cut stamps to make wax seals, and then I made wax seals. And then I had to read a lot of 40K entries and book text and Wikipedias to get like good quotes. So I made a set of seals that went all along the scroll. So I basically made it like a big, like, what if you tacked up a picture, or what if you tacked up an edict on a door frame sort of scroll. And it was the scroll where the least amount of stuff went wrong, and that I felt like when I was done, I was like, yes, I'm actually very happy with this. And then I was able to send it and not be stressed about, could I have done something differently? Because I could have, but it would have been a different thing and not an improvement.
Okay. So we're talking about a highlight right now. Let's talk about a low light. What was your least favorite?
Oh man, I definitely got asked to do a pair of scrolls once, and I'm confident, Mike, I'm sorry if you're watching, I definitely got asked to do a set of scrolls once where I completely ignored, not like forgot. I was like, I don't want to do the thing that he's asked me to do, and I did something else. And I was doing it for free, so I was like, who cares? And he was like, this is not what I asked you to do. And I was like, here are your awards today. And it's because I love the visual of doing paired awards, and the award was for a couple. But in the back of my mind, couple or not, when there are two people getting the same award and people want them to be able to line up, I'm always like, okay, but like, what if they don't live together? What if they stop being friends? And it's like, how can we make it so that they fit together and that they can also be separated? And so I made a paired set of scrolls, but he wanted them to be attached. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And it was a low light for me because it was, I don't think a moment of disappointment from a person I've made something for has stuck out to me that much, even though he was just like, oh, this is what I asked for. And I was like, okay, well, here they are. And that's all we can do. And they loved them, thank God.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. Yeah, they loved them, which is important to me. But yeah, I felt bad.
Yeah. Okay. Dame Annabelle would like to know, what projects do you have in the works?
So I think anybody who does art knows that quarantine has been like a weird, bizarre time to like tap into your artistic abilities, because you're just like, I don't want to. I want to sit on my couch and eat Doritos 10 hours a day. At least that's me anyway. Right now I'm working on a professional retirement gift for a friend of mine. I'm experimenting a little bit more with I own a laser cutter, so I'm experimenting more with like laser cut wood pieces. And I have this idea to do like small animal like totem figurines or pendants that are like really simplified animal shapes. So I'm thinking about how to do that with my laser cutter and a Dremel to make them just like nice, smooth, simple shapes. Because I think I overcomplicate stuff a little bit. And having something that is really straightforward, it seems like it would be a good thing to do. I made myself some coasters last week. That's about all I've got going on right now.
Cool. And hey, there's nothing wrong with eating Doritos, okay?
Oh yeah, you got it. Like if not now, then when are you going
right.
to do
This is
it?
the perfect time for Dorito eating. Let's just get
Mhm.
Still Hat would like to know, is there a class that you would be willing to teach on Discord to the Kingdom of Dragonspine, and what would that be and why?
One of the hard things about I got asked this like leading up to my reign in the Iron Mountains right now. And one of the hard things about being self-taught is you don't want to teach people bad things. Like I learned Illustrator on my own, so I don't want to go like, and this is how you do it, because even my partner who's had some actual like technical training is like, there's like a 5-step easier way to do that, right?
Yeah.
I can teach the basics of scroll composition because I like figuring out visually how things should go together so they're readable, even if you want to make them complex. I taught basics of heraldry design this term in office, and I could probably teach some form of short story writing or copy editing, because that was like my one thing that I entered into tournaments for many years was short stories.
So, heraldry class.
Yes.
A friend of yours, a knight of ours, Sir Randall, had promised me one of those a long time ago.
Oh, interesting.
Needless to say, I still haven't had the class. So I'm not calling any specific knight out named Sir Randall, but
gotcha. There are a lot of the great Sir Randalls. There's Sir Randall and Sir Randall. I would happily come teach the class, and if he wanted to help me teach traditional heraldry, boy howdy, would that be great, because I am not great at blazoning or traditional heraldry styles. I'm much better at contemporary.
That's, you know what? That's a step in the right direction, and that's got my seal of approval.
Excellent.
We'll talk.
Good.
Kron would like to know, what is your favorite piece of garb?
I like this chemise that I'm wearing right now. I definitely didn't make it. Dame Fiona made this, and we went to visit her, and I got to root through her clothing stash, and that was nice. I have like the gift of, because I have teal in my heraldry, and teal was like my obsession color for a long time. I have 3 or 4 bright teal tunics. And let me tell you, if you go to a game that is not super into bright colors, they know what game you're from when you go there. As people were correctly able to identify me as an Amtgarder at a number of other events. And I was like, how did you know? Is it my teal tunic and my teal running shoes? But I think this for now, like, is my favorite. It's comfortable. I could probably get away with wearing it as a shirt in my normal life. And it was a nice gift from somebody I value a lot.
What about as an ensemble?
There are 2 other pieces that go with this. I have a simple black cotton tunic that I can layer anything over. I have a master hood that I can put over top of it. I have a coat that I can put over top of it, and I have a pair of orange harem pants with pockets that actually came from Target. But when you wear them under a long tunic, it just looks like you're wearing a pair of like nice harem pants. So that's basically my go-to outfit, especially when I'm not 100% sure what I'll be doing during the day, because it is open, movable, and I have pockets, which is very important.
So if I can understand correctly.
Yes.
Teal and orange.
Not orange as much, except for that one pair of pants. Orange is not a color that I usually pick, but those pants snuck in there somehow.
You're so close to saying the right answer.
I tried my best, and I knew you were trying to get me somewhere. And I was like, can't do that. Right.
All right. So those are the art questions. Now I need to pick your brain as an Amtgarder, a 16-year-old or 16 years in the game. Still would like to know, what is Amtgard?
I saw this question too, and I want to try to parse my teen feelings and my adult feelings. Amtgard is a place where you can be more ridiculous than you can in most spaces and develop an interest in and like skills at stuff you probably wouldn't get exposure to otherwise, whether that's combat and athletics, or that's an art form, or that's leadership or volunteerism or something like that. You can be a weird person and also develop real life skills. As an adult, though, it's also kind of like, if I were 16 years old and not just like also a 16-year-old tenure, the like balance of me being 32 and divisible has not escaped me. I think it's also a space where I, as an adult, want to keep that space for younger people to come to, because I recognize now that there are people that I grew up with who didn't have that space. So it's a space where you should have the freedom to be yourself, as long as you are a thoughtful and respectful person to explore medieval arts and crafts and combat and all that stuff.
Fantastic. That's a great answer. Look at that. Sorando would like to know, tell us of the lessons you brought with you from Eastern Amtgard.
The one thing that is very different, and I talked about this with Kelladry, who's also a GV transplant, the bardic culture here is completely different, and in a way that I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm into. So bardics in GV used to be like singing in the round, and like you had lots of folk songs that you all knew and you would all sing them together, and then it would be broken up by like, oh, it's time for a solo performance and somebody would do something. And out here the focus is a lot more on a set of solo performances where there are like sometimes like group sing things. And I really want that to be a little bit more of a thing, to get people to like learn the songs and traditions and carry them and experience them together, because I think solo performances are fabulous, and the fact that there are so many people who do them out here is astounding to me, because I know that I progressively develop more stage fright over time. But I don't know that I have any great wisdom that isn't, I would love to do more quests and I would love to do more bardics. I don't know that there's anything other than that, really.
Okay. I got to go east and play a little bit myself, being from Western New York. So it's just different. It's the same, but it's different. I don't know. That's all. But that's me killing the story there. Anyway.
Yeah.
Beatrix would like to know, what are your thoughts on Dragonspine's proposal for the non-men's women's tournaments and their use in the Order of the Warriors Let?
I haven't read the specific proposal, but because I haven't read the specific proposal, I'll give my overview on non-men's tournaments and ladder. Non-men's tournaments are great. Giving people warriors for participating in them costs nobody anything and seems like a nice thing to have. The impact that I've seen by having those tournaments exist in like what are dominantly male spaces is always amazing. Like the people who participate in them are always very happy. It does not dilute the open or men's tournaments in any way. And I think I spoke to somebody a number of years ago who said, like, if people are afraid that women are going to be mediocre warlords, and I don't think that's the case, but if they're afraid that that is going to happen, it's important to remember that the original warlords that were knighted, that were like given that title and then knighted, were not very good compared to like the warlords today. So if you get somebody who is a middle of the pack warlord now as a non-male player, that's not a bad thing. It's just not a bad thing. There's a lot to unpack in that about like warlord culture and like the like toxic masculinity associated with it that we're like seeing a move away from. But non-men's fighting tournaments, good. Giving them orders, giving people who participate and win orders of the warrior, good. It just seems like a simple thing that people get. It seems like a simple thing that people are defensive against. I think it's cool that people are for it, but I think that it sparks a lot of tension that I don't understand.
No, it's super good. I like both ups on that. I'm for it. Let's do this thing. Beatrix would also like to know, what does Dragonspine have that you wish you had more of, and why is it bears?
this is what we would say in the journalism world, a leading question. And the answer has to be bears, but you do have Randall. Randall does make big stone carvings that I would really like to do at some point. So yeah, bears. Yeah.
You know what? He's got a lot on his plate with his heraldry class, so he's going to have to offer stones right now.
Maybe we can convince him to do a stone bear carving, and we can like split the difference in terms of like bear representation and also big stone carvings.
See, I like your thought process. It's fantastic. We're doing great things here. Speaking of Sir Randall, he would like to know, why is the Iron Mountains so amazing?
I'm gonna preface this with I feel like in Greater Amtgard it's cool to dunk on left-wing kingdoms right now, and so like I take anything I say with a grain of salt, but moving out here, this was easily the most diverse kingdom I'd ever played in on a regular basis. Like, we still have the problem of being dominantly white, which is like kind of it's a byproduct of who Amtgard markets to and people who live in the areas and like security of spaces and a few other things. But like the queer community here is huge and fantastic, and people are all very very quick to come to each other's aid when things happen. And I don't know, it was very easy to just like move here and have friends that weren't friends before I moved, and I really appreciated that. So I don't want to get, and I'm never one to brag a lot about this kind of stuff because it feels disingenuous, but I think it was after spending a lot of time arguing about politics on the internet, it was very refreshing to come to a place where I was like, oh, I just agree with these people, and we all want this to be a nice place, and that's nice.
Fantastic. Apologies, someone is stealing an oatmeal cookie from me.
Oh goodness, I'm so sorry.
So I wanted to know, what is the best feast you've ever attended?
Best feast I've ever attended. I want to say it's the winter, and probably like 2011, 2010. I went to an event, like an imperial or like a principality level event in Ontario, and there was a multi-course themed feast, and there was a small soup, and there was an entree, and there was a dessert, and there was a drink, and everything was so good. And even it was very much like going to a place and getting tasting plates or getting like small, you get little dessert bites. Like, it was all very good. And like Amtgard feasts will always suffer from, as somebody who has done them myself, like they will always suffer from the time, money, quality Venn diagram where you can really only ever have two, because that's just the nature of how things seem to work. You're busy, or you don't have enough money, or more people show up, and there's lots of weird variables. But that feast stands out in my mind as a really quality time. So thank you to Diana and Kismet for making that feast, because boy howdy, was I remember it to this day.
All right, and the last question of our insight was, what is from Cleo. What is the most surprising thing you learned from the Amtgard exit survey?
Well, first of all, that 320 people would give me honest answers, probably because it was anonymous, and I really appreciate that. When the story was, I was discriminated against based on a part of myself, so my identity or a fact of myself that I can't change, like race or sex or gender and that kind of stuff. The stories were often so strong that the reason I haven't published the findings is because I've had to take breaks. I've been reading it, and it's a lot of emotional, like, it's a lot of sharing that I appreciate, but it is emotionally very exhausting. And so I've had to take breaks because I think, like, boy, there's some stuff here that we could actually like fix. So the honesty is one thing, and the fact that people shared some stuff that honestly just really bothered me and really upset me. That was the other thing. I expected things like, I don't like the drama and like that. But when I did get comments like that, they were like, I don't like the drama nationally, or I didn't get along with people at home and like that kind of stuff. But there was some stuff in there that I really wasn't expecting in terms of receiving that kind of information.
Well, I mean, thank you for taking that on. It's got to be a lot of it. Obviously, it's a strain. You're talking about having to step away from it, but we do appreciate you taking your time to do that.
I think that when I'm able to put stuff out, I think people will really be interested in reading what's there, because I know that the numbers especially like interest me a lot. But at the end of the day, people kept saying this is why people quit. And I was like, what if we just asked people why they quit? Yeah. And then we get like some sort of static data that we can use in the future. So yeah, no, I'm excited to finish it. It will just take me some more time to finish it.
Excellent. That's great. All right. So with that being said, we're into your third category, a special category for knights.
Oh, good. Yes.
We call that knighthood.
Very good.
So I typically want to start with something along the lines of tell us about your belt line, your bringing into a belt line, how you belt, stuff like that.
I have 5 squires, and I know that someone somewhere is going to go, that's too many squires. You only have 1 belt. And all I can say is GV is a wild place. It's the Wild West when it comes to belts. My knight had 3 squires, and her knight had like 8 squires, and it's a whole thing. But like even before I was a knight, and when I was only giving it like when I only had like a page under my lady title, I end up gravitating towards people who are like me, who are good at a lot of things, don't really know what to do with it, are very anxious, and sometimes to the point of being introverted people. I am not introverted. And that is the reason that I like those people, because we have a lot in common. And sometimes it's just they have to, they point me like a cannon in the direction they want me to go. And I'm like, I see. So it's just people who need somebody in their corner and who really want to try to develop one skill above the other ones. And the one skill that I'm genuinely lacking is like sword instruction. But in the past, I've been lucky enough to have friends who are willing. I'm like, please teach this person. I cannot help them. Please help them. So yeah, people who have a set of skills and are just looking for somebody to stay with them as they figure them out is how that's happened. And I don't think I've ever been asked for a belt. I have just appeared one day with a belt and been like, hello, we've talked about this at least once. Surprise, it's a belt. I guess one thing also is I've always talked about, like, when I give somebody a belt, I also say, hey, so if this belt ever stops working for you, you just tell me, you drop this belt and you take whatever other belt you want. There doesn't need to be a whole thing where it's like you're sneakily like going to take another belt, and like it doesn't need to be like that. You just tell me you're unhappy and you do whatever you need to do, because I think a lot of people have been in an experience where it's like they think that somebody's in a belt that doesn't fit them, or they are in a belt that doesn't fit them, or you're like, oh, so-and-so is trying to poach someone else. But that's not really how a relationship should work, hopefully. So that like upfront communication of like, if this changes for you, just tell me, has taken, I think, pressure off both parties, because I have had people drop belts, and when they do, they go, I'm done. And I go, okay, like, I wish you a good luck. And if you need anything, you just let me know. That doesn't change. So.
Fantastic. Is there any shout outs you want to give to like your knight or your squires, or?
I hope that my squires are all doing well, because we talk semi-regularly and each one of them talks to me in a panic, and I only talk to them in a panic. I just hope they're all doing good. I just want them to all be living their best lives right now. But I don't want to highlight one over the other, because I like to have something prepared to say about each of them, because they all do cool stuff. So I hope they're all doing good, and I'll message them right after this like a guilty parent.
Fantastic. Hey, we're creating communication here on
That's right.
All right. So what are your thoughts on opening Paladin and anti-Paladin?
I love it. I'm in. I voted. I wanted to vote yes on it. I didn't understand. There's video of me actively not understanding in the Circle of Knights or the Circle of Monarchs meeting. I think there's always the sentiment from V7 that from early V8 of, well, Paladin and anti-Paladin suck. So like, why can't people play them? I do understand where people are coming from with like, it is one of the last real traditions that is carried over from earlier rule books. Like knights get to play paladin and anti-paladin, but at the end of the day, as long as it's just a class and you know, again, this is kind of like the tournament thing, and that involves unpacking a lot of feelings about knighthood, but as long as people can accept that paladin and anti-paladin in games are not people pretending to be nice, which is like a thing that you say you have to do so many award levels to get there. I think it's great. I think people should be able to play stuff. It's possible it'll entice people who weren't enticed before because we were like, yeah, you can play these classes. No, not that one. That one's for special people. I don't see the harm in it, and I don't think we need to rename it to get there. I think it's just, we should just give it to the people. I, as a knight, have genuinely just like everybody should play what they want to play. I'm certainly not out there playing paladin right now, so.
Man, I sure and no all at the same time, but I'm just the king. I'm not a knight, so I'm just gonna back off that. Stillhat would like to know, what would be the biggest piece of advice you'd give to someone who's pursuing knighthood, specifically Flamebelt?
You should take a vacation. You should not run every event you can get your hands on back to back for years, because one day you will do something like freak out at somebody. I'm trying to think of things I've actually done, and I'm stressed to think of anything other than get really drunk and complain about how hard the event was. But like you'll snap at people you work with. You'll get really defensive about things that weren't really under your control. You'll get really drunk and you'll tell people at the event how hard your life is. Just make sure you take a break and just go to events. And when we're able to do that, go to events outside your city or your state if you have access to them, to just like be a person at somebody else's event. It'll give you ideas for how to run your events usually, or it'll reaffirm that things you're doing are good, and it will ensure that you never hit a point where you are in the like volunteer trap of, I'm giving a lot of my time to this game and nobody's giving me my pieces of paper. Again, a whole other rant about why we should just give people the pieces of paper. But you'll get to a point where you're doing a lot of work and it's stressing you out and you're having anxiety attacks. That's a personal experience thing. Or having nightmares. That's a personal experience thing. And you won't want to do it again later. So if you take a vacation and just go to some events and like enjoy yourself and hang out with your friends, that'll make it easier to do events in the future. And you will probably observe stuff that you will go, I need to do that, or I will never do that, by just not having a horse in the race, so to speak.
Fantastic. That's a great idea. So we are out of knighthood, and now we are. That was
fast. It was only 3 years.
So you get 3 questions for knighthood. Everyone wants to know about your art. Everyone wants to know about bears. But
yes.
I assume that as far as your knighthood goes, you've been asked a lot about that. So
I would say a decent amount, but most people are asking questions like, how do you become a knight, which is something I'm not great at answering. But like, how can you work at being a knight? I've got a few things like what we just talked about.
Okay, so here we go with the last topic, which is the funny topic.
Good.
Does Tajima deserve Sonic?
You say sake?
Sonic.
Sonic, like the food, or the man from the video game?
This is the second week in a row I've had to distinguish the two. It's definitely the food. It is definitely not the hedgehog.
Okay, but the new Sonic movie, as long as you're going in with the mindset of a child, or you have a child, that movie's pretty good. I went and saw that in theaters, which is a surprise. We all deserve Sonic. There's something at Sonic for everyone.
So he deserves the hedgehog and the food.
Yeah, in an ideal universe, somebody brings him the food, but the trade-off is he has to watch the Sonic movie, which hopefully he enjoys.
Oh, a caveat. I love it.
Yeah.
He can get the Sonic food, but he has to watch the movie.
Yeah, and if he enjoys the Sonic movie, then he's had a pleasant Sonic experience.
There it is. An extension of that question now is always, should still have to eat her own abominations. If you're unaware, Still has made a taco or shown pictures of a taco with Oreos in it and ranch dressing on top.
Now I have some questions about I have some further questions about the taco. Does the taco have normal taco underneath and then has Oreos and then has ranch dressing? No. Oh. No. God, is it in a corn tortilla or a flour tortilla?
It looks like a flour tortilla.
Okay, that's better in the sense of like it's blander, so we don't introduce more flavors. The idea of Oreos in a flour tortilla is very intriguing to me. The idea of ranch dressing as a concept is not super intriguing to me. Yeah, I think if you want to share the abomination, you have to eat what you created. That is the folly of man, is always having to experience the things he creates. I think that if you were to make an Oreo taco and cover it in like, I don't know, you get some cotija cheese or something in there instead, something that's not quite as sour.
Right.
I could come back around. I like peanut butter and cheddar cheese on waffles. So like I can come back around to a weird food, but it's because ranch is a thing that I'm like, I'm not into that.
No. We're not just gonna skim over this. Peanut butter and cheddar cheese.
I grew up without a ton of money. And my boyfriend in high school did too. And one of the things that he had his own apartment by virtue of his grandmother owning a lot of homes. So he lived on his own at 17. And when you live on your own at 17, you're allowed to buy whatever you want. And that's a critical mistake. But he always had Eggo waffles. And I like waffles, as you know, I hope that many people do. It's not a requirement, but waffles are good. And waffles with syrup. And then one day somebody was like, waffles with peanut butter. And I was like, seems great. And then one day somebody was like, waffles with peanut butter and cheddar cheese. And I was like, this seems terrible. And then I ate it and was like, oh no, this is like some sort of fatty, delicious treat. So I haven't had one in a long time. I do think about them from time to time. And I'm like, do I just go out and buy Eggo waffles and just eat my shame waffle? But the cheddar cheese doesn't impart, and it's important that it's like brick cheddar and not like processed cheese, because processed cheese adds an oil component that just seems bad. But you get like the Eggo waffles aren't super flavorful, but they're a good base, and then the peanut butter is delicious as peanut butter can be, and then the cheddar cheese is mostly just like a fat like a component, and so it doesn't impart a lot of flavor, but it's all like more savory. And the bonus is you could probably sub that out with almond butter if you were allergic to peanuts, and I imagine the experience would be almost the same. So if you try the peanut butter and cheese Eggo waffle situation, just let me know how you like it. I would be curious to know if it has held up in the 10 years since I've last had one.
So if you're watching Kingdom of Kodiak right now, I think Promethea is asking for pictures of you eating waffles, peanut butter, and cheddar.
This is correct. I would even go so far to say, as if somebody wanted to make a weird food suggestion that didn't involve ranch, I would probably try it. I'm a person who's like, y'all tried these weird foods together once. But I draw a line at ranch. I'm sorry.
All right, I have one. Sorrento might be interested in this.
I'm ready.
Jelly jam, mayo, and bologna.
There is, when you go to Gathering of the Clans, there's a restaurant in Cloudcroft that does a sandwich that is like tomato, bacon, peanut butter, and mayo. I will find it because I've been there a couple times, and we went to that restaurant. I saw it on the menu, and I looked up the waiter, and I was like, okay, but is this good? And he's like, I have eaten more than one. And I was like, that's a good sales pitch, because he's not like, yes, it's the best sandwich we have. We got it. There were 4 of us. We cut it into quarters, and we all ate the sandwich while frowning, being like, your sandwich is actually pretty tasty. That's depressing. So yeah, I'm into it. I will try to bologna, not an always food, but I will make this happen. Does the type of jelly matter? What
grape.
Fruit? Grape? Okay.
Yes.
Just checking. Okay.
Yep. All right. That's from my dad. For anyone that's watching, that's a staple of his own. Okay. Sarandel asks you if you could kindly play the acronym game with me.
Okay, the acronym game. Okay, so the acronym game, I already sent you this link. I want to see if I can get it to the chat so they can understand what is happening, but I'll try to talk my way through it at the same time. The acronym game is based on a meme I saw on the internet where somebody tried to come up with different words to say, did you know that Friends is actually just an acronym of all the people who are starring in Friends? And we'll just post that picture there for you to all enjoy. And the key is you take a word and you say, did you know that Kodiak is actually an acronym for all the things that are great about Kodiak? And then the key thing here is that the spelling doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So kind. Oh, we're doing a video now. That's pretty funny stuff. And you can see how this game is played.
Okay.
So the acronym game will do something that's a lot shorter. And all you have to do is come up with something that starts with the letter or doesn't, or is actually a series of words that might fit in that. So let's think of something. Did you know that sword is actually an acronym for all of the things that are great about owning a sword? I'll start. Stab them.
Wield them.
So you're getting it.
Hey.
Old but cool.
Rare but shiny.
Don't leave them where your kids can get them. See? And we played this at an event for probably a solid 3 hours, and it still works. It works when you're sober. It works when you're drinking. All you have to do is think of a word and then think of, do you know that it's actually an acronym for something else? I think that I definitely did one that I can no longer recall most of the words of. That was, do you know that night is an acronym for all the things that are bad about going to Circle Nights meetings? And we can, but the important thing is the context, the word should be in the context of the thing you want, but it is especially fun to play the game and be like, do you know that this word is the best thing about this person? Because then everybody thinks of nice things, and it is a very enjoyable game, but can be played by anyone, anywhere. I'm confident that you could get into this game if you.
Absolutely.
You might have to write down the words if you're like me and forget letters, but.
The next time we're at GOTC, I challenge you to a game of that.
I don't know if there really is a winner, but it probably is the person who laughs so hard they cry and like can no longer control their own speech because they're crying. So yes, I accept.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Beatrix would like to know, what is your funniest Amtgard story?
All of the stories I think of involve drinking. So let's think of one that doesn't. I can tell this story, and it involves name dropping, but I think it's important to show how like Amtgard interpersonal relationships are connected. One time I drove home from an event with Sir Potato, and this is important because I packed the car. The stuff that was in the car was just like laid out behind the car, and he was packing and chatting, and I'm like, well, all my friends from back home have left, and so I don't know these people, I'll just pack the car. We packed the car. We are driving back to Maryland from Keep on the Borderlands, so it is a drive. We're driving in the car, and partway through, Potato is like, this car smells. Why does this car smell so bad? Why is this happening? I'm going to stop at this gas station and get air fresheners. So he goes inside. I think I bought him like 4 air fresheners that he opened immediately and put immediately in the car, and all of them at once. So it smelled very intense in the car. And yet he rooted through the car to try to find the good source of the smell. And he's like, oh my God, it's these sneakers. These aren't my sneakers. Whose sneakers are they? I'm like, I don't know. They were on your stuff, so I put them in the car. He's like, oh God, it doesn't matter. They're not expensive sneakers. They're like, you go to Walmart and you need some cheap boat shoes, sneakers sort of situation. He's like, I'm gonna throw them out. I'll find out whose they are. I'll replace them. I just cannot have them in this car anymore. A year later, I am at a dinner, and Sir Brett is there, and he is telling the story at the other end of the table from me about some dumbass Potato fangirl who stole his shoes, and that Mike threw out his shoes, and why would he do this? And I'm just very slowly covering my face, and my friends at that end of the table who know the story are laughing, and I am like, it's me. I'm the fangirl who stole your shoes. And he stood up from the table and he was like, why? And that's the story of how we accidentally stole a warlord's shoes and threw them out at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. But for a year, Brett, I've been telling that story as a fangirl of potatoes stole Brett's shoes.
Fantastic. Oh. All right. This used to be one question.
Oh, good.
It has been broken down to 3. I feel that Kron is trying to punish me at this point.
Okay.
Kron would like to ask 3 questions to you. Is it possible to write a funky, fresh rap, too funky and fresh for fans of the funky and fresh raps?
If you're a real fan, you have to accept experimentation, which means no. But if you experiment too much, people might not think they're funky or fresh. So it depends how true of a fan you are. That's what I'm gonna say.
Real fans get it.
Real fans get it. That's right.
At what point does being too funky and fresh cause one to suffer from illin like a villain? And is there a cure for said illin?
Once you've been on Law and Order for 20 seasons, that's the cure. So Ice-T is fine.
Okay. All right.
So you gotta commit to something for a long period of time to undo that if it causes you toxicity in your life.
Are you saying 20 years though?
I guess. Would you say that he was a good actor after 1 year? Because if yes, then the answer is 1 year. And if you say that it took him, he had to age into that role like a fine wine, then 20 years. You have to commit to something for a length of time to become an expert outside of your field. And then people can go, oh, he's multi-talented. They're a triple threat, and now it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have to develop the ability to become a triple threat.
That's right. And you don't have to be like outstanding at your other threat items, but you need to try.
Okay. And the last question, how funky and fresh do you consider yourself to be?
Fairly funky and not super fresh, if I'm being honest. I can write, but I wouldn't rap. That's all I'm saying. I can write a slam poem, but if somebody was like, and now you put that to music, I would be like, I have to go and lose my number, please.
Fantastic. 6 Promethea, that's Kingdom of Kodiak. Thank you so much for coming on today. We need to find more time to have chit chat, is what I'm seeing.
This was super fun. So if anybody's thinking about this, bye. If anybody's thinking about this and it's like, I don't know if I can go on a live stream, you can. It was a very easy and enjoyable experience.
I mean, guys, listen, this is the 7th month of me doing this, and I'm a fool. And I host this every week, except for one. And it's gonna keep rolling. We're doing this thing. Like a wrecking ball, some would say.
I would say that, yes.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for coming on. As far as Kingdom news goes, we have a proposed amendment that is going to All Thing. It's going to be up until midnight of the 20th, I believe. So make sure you're looking at that. Additionally, we have another amendment that's going to be in the procedural 30 days. So go ahead and take a look at that. That'll be voted on next month. But until next time, I've been Kodiak. This is Kingdom of Kodiak. Goodbye.